SharkNation, welcome to another episode of the SharkPod. We've got our special guest out there, Joe Doyle. How are you getting on, Joe?
Never been better, my friend.
And as usual, we've got our co-host out there in Glenagiri, Mark Baker. Mark Baker, how are you this evening? You didn't plug in your mic at the beginning.
I didn't have it plugged in.
Yeah.
Well, it's plugged in now.
Okay,
no issues.
Ready to go. So we wanted to have a chat with Joe on the SharkPod, because this year is the year on the SharkPod of kind of getting your money right. As I know a mutual a friend of ours, Grant Cardone, might say. We're going to get all into that as well, because I saw that on Instagram that Joe was having a chat with one of our favorites on the show, Grant Cardone. So Joe Doyle, how would you describe yourself? How would you introduce yourself? Someone said, "What do you do for a living? Who are you? What's the story?"
Since I started, playing with social media, I actually introduce. I'm Joe Doyle, entrepreneur. So I tell people I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm a property investor, and I'm a business mentor.
Perfect.
Simple
as that. And tell the people, how did you get into property investing? Because loads of people in Ireland, we're obsessed with property, owning our own piece of the pie here in Ireland. Like, what got you into property originally?
That's what I wanted to do since I was a nipper.
Yeah.
It was just, the way you hear a fella wants to be an astronaut since he's 3 years of age.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a property guy since I was about 10 or something, about 12. I actually started saving for my first house when I was about 15.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just weird. You'd think I'd be better at it by now, wouldn't you? And I'm seriously underperforming here. I need to up my game a bit,
But the kind of what drew me to you as well as we talked to somebody else on the podcast recently. They were talking about putting something out there and having the courage to say what you're trying to do, and then the people will see that flag and they'll maybe reach out and try to help or try to get involved or try to or they'll get inspired by it. So you're trying to get to 100 million in property, eventually. That's the main goal.
I don't know if I agree with the word trying.
Going to.
Yes, I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey to 100 million. Yeah, that's the plan. We want to build a 100 million euro property portfolio. We're currently at 12. So
12 million.
We've
Okay.
about 88% to go.
Okay, so but 12 million is still a lot more than a lot of other people will be doing. So when you were 15, you're saving for a house, all that type of stuff. You want to be a property investor, or maybe just own a house as quickly as possible. Did you do something to get into that industry, or what's the?
So the whole story there, the journey is, I used to be a bricklayer. Does the video of this go out, or is this audio only?
It's video as well. But
I know where. No, I better stop bouncing around then, because your lads will. I'm just tying me lace here. I better stop.
Put your top back on, Joe.
Yeah, put my clothes back on. I've actually no trousers on, Right, let me give you a snapshot of the journey. Yeah, I bought the house next door to my mother's house when I was 18, and I was an apprentice bricklayer, and bought the house when I was 18, and you could get I think it was 92% of a mortgage you could get at that time. So if the house was 120 grand, see, I'm blessed in that I grew up in a place where houses are a fraction of the cost of where you guys are currently living, which is great, because we could buy a house for 120, 130 grand, something like that. So if the house was, call it even 150, and you needed you are getting a 92% mortgage, 8% of 150 is 12 grand. So for 12 grand, you're on the property ladder in Dublin, And then before that, people forget that before that, there was a thing called the first time buyer's grant, which was a certain amount of money that the government would give you. I'm not sure what it was. And I just missed out on that by, a couple of months or whatever. It was just finished. So it was a lot easier to get on the property market at that point in time. So when I got the first house, after that, then you needed to have a 20% deposit. But I realized then that if you are buying a site to build a house, the bank would give you all of the money to build a house and 80% of the purchase price of the site. So if you are buying a second house, it was an 80% mortgage. If you are buying a site, it was 80% of the site value and 100% of the build cost. So it meant if you're actually building a house, you needed far less money to put into the deal yourself. So I got the first house next door to my mother's house, still have it today. Then I bought a site in the estate across the way from me, and I built the house there. And then because I was literally building everything myself, you know, I was building the house for less than the cost, the official build cost was. So that was giving me the deposit to go on to the next one. So I done that like a good few times, and I kept all the houses. I should have sold them probably, but I kept them all. And then things start getting more and more expensive that I just couldn't justify paying the money that people were paying. And I done one day, I went one step too far, you know, I stopped one deal ahead of where I should have. And then the whole thing just came tumbling down. At that point in time, we had like, it was a 3 million borrowings. The properties were probably worth, I don't even know what they're worth now, I'd have to check it out there, but they were worth a little bit more than that. And then was it 3 million? Jeez, I'm make sure I'm not telling you that. Someone's going to pick me up and they say, you said this amount there. But basically, at one point there was 3 million quid out to the bank, and the properties had crashed down to like £1 million or so, a little bit more than £1 million, and the banks wanted their 3 million back.
So I always wondered how that worked, because like I'm not a property investor. I bought a apartment when I was straight out of college the first year. Couldn't really afford it either, but we went, then had to leave, go to Canada for a couple of years, and we rented it out while we were gone, and we sold it when we came back. And we were lucky because we bought it when it was really low. So we did all right out of it. But someone had told me that before, that when they owe a certain amount, the banks can call and ask for the whole thing back. I didn't realize that was the case. Is that just with investment properties, or is that with people do that for your house? Like,
I don't think they can do it on a family home, but they can do it on investment properties if the bank security is compromised by the value dropping.
okay.
So if the bank say that they're going to lend you 70% of the value of a property, and then the property is, say they lend you 70 grand, the property's 100 grand. It's normally on bigger, say it's 700 grand versus £1 million property, and then the value drops below the specified levels or parameters. Well, then they can call in the loan, in which case then you need to pay off the loan to bring it back into the correct loan to value ratios, or the loan is deemed to be in default and they can pull the plug on it altogether.
Oh my God. And then but did that ever come up when you were building up your portfolio? Did that ever cross your mind that this could be a possibility, or just were you thinking this is, you know, something that isn't going to happen?
No, like property prices had only ever gone one way in Ireland up until 2000 and the end of 2007/2008. So I wasn't really concerned about it. But I did realise that I couldn't buy properties and make any money on them based on what other people were paying. They were like, so, you know, bear in mind, I was only like 22, 23 years old at this stage. It's only a few years in the game, and I didn't really know what I was doing myself. But when I added the numbers up for something, it just didn't stack up, so I couldn't go near it, you know. And then it crashed, and there was all sorts of madness happened, as we know.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really only took you a few years from when you were 18 to buying your first one to get to that kind of 3 million value.
No, it wasn't a 3 million value. The mortgage value was 3 million.
Okay.
The properties were like over 5 million. Like I'd made like 2 million quid when I was 23, and I thought, geez, this is easy. I'll have me 100 million like in no time at all. And then by the time I was 27, it was like gone, and I didn't do anything with it. I didn't spend the money. I didn't turn the money into cash, which I could have paid the tax and walked away and jumped back in then, you know, 2 years later, and I would have turned that 2 million into like 10 million at least, and that, you know. So look, nobody knows what's around the corner. But like as I look back now, if I I'm 36 now, so if you kind of break it down, I started when I was 18, and I got to a certain point at 23 that I had a couple of million quid, and then 27 it was gone, right? So I was just kind of playing around with it from 23 up to 27. I thought this was easy, and then it took me from like 27 to took me at least 5 years, probably a little bit more, to sort all that out. And then I got back on the horse, and it didn't take me that long. I basically turned into an absolute machine, like, for doing work and doing deals and, you know, walking around the clock. And it didn't take me that long to get back up. And now, even as I look back on kind of the journey so far, I still think that I'm underperforming at where I'm at. Like, I just need to gather a bit more momentum so that I can just do what I know I can do, if that makes sense, you know.
And Joe, during this time, as you were late teens, early 20s, were you still working bricklaying day to day, 9 to 5?
No, when I couldn't buy, when I realized that the numbers weren't stacking up. Actually, this is the one thing that kind of really fucked me up, was that I got I done a deal where the bank gave me the money to buy the money to buy the property and the site and the bill cost. And I remember I had the loan offer. It was an €850,000 deal. And I can remember the exact thing. I reached out to somebody who I trusted because I was thinking about starting a business. This guy was a business mentor. So I reached out to this guy to say, look, I'm thinking about starting a business, but I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I could hire you. And I had the loan offer and I was about to start this project. And so it's basically an old derelict house that was ready to be turned into a couple of apartments and a shop. And he says, yeah, look, I'll help you. I think your business is a great idea. And I said, well, look, I'm going to go and do this project first, or will I start the business first, right? And his exact words were to me, well, you're hot to trot now. You may as well do the business now, because that involved me spending €14,000 with him because I was hiring him. It was my very first purchase in my company, was to hire a business coach. And it was the worst advice that I ever got, because he should have said to me, go and do your building project, because if your loan offer expires, you may not get it renewed. Now, he didn't know anything about property, and he was a guy out there, pushing his business. So I don't judge him in any way for that. But it was no big deal for me to get the loan offer renewed, because I got them renewed before when they went out of date. However, that was when the world was about to come tumbling down. And when the bank gives you the contract, well, they've basically promised to give you the money. They can't take it back, unless it expires and they can refuse to renew. And in the end, I paid 650 grand or so for this particular site, and it's in the end, the bank sold it for 80, and that was the one that sent me over the edge. Now, as I look back on that, and I had a conversation one day, this guy came to one of my business training seminars, and he was saying, but look at you, basically we were comparing war stories, and he went to buy a property in 2007, 2008, and he just didn't buy it. And he was like, thank God he didn't do it. But I just plowed through and bought them all. So today he still hasn't bought any properties, but I've bought loads of them. So he failed by default, by basically not doing anything, whereas I failed by action. And I think it's better to fail by action rather than fail by default, because I've built up an absolute massive wealth of experience that people wouldn't have learned in 3 lifetimes, if that makes sense, and I'm so risk averse now with everything I do. It's all about de-risking, how even to the point there, I'm always about don't waste money, but now I'm at the point how can I make sure I don't waste time on this? So it's I'm the whole Warren Buffett thing, 2 rules of getting rich. Number 1, don't lose money, and number 2, don't forget rule number 1. So I've got it was a blip on the radar, and it's still a kind of a large chunk of my business life at this point. But as time goes on, that 5-year window will get smaller and smaller as a percentage of the time. And look, I'm grateful for it now at this stage, to be honest. But I'm not fucking going back there,
Yeah. We've talked to those people kind of around their age, who kind of came up just before the crash of 2007, 2008, and then went through some tough times then and came back. One person in particular that we had on said he was going mad with the property. He was writing checks for things that he wasn't really looking into. Things in the bank was calling him from Ulster Bank, offering him something, an investment property in Bangkok or something. He's like, yeah, it sounds legit. Go for it. And
don't trust bankers.
Yeah.
You need to be careful with them,
And that's interesting as well. That most people that are going for trying to buy their first property, trying to get in the ladder themselves, that kind of the relationship that they have is kind of almost like the bank has all the power. They think that the bank is, I have to jump through all these hoops they have to keep them sweet and everything like that. But you mentioned there that you have to be careful of them. Is that kind of when you get going, they'll try to?
No, if you're dealing with a lending manager, his job is to sell money. His job is not to get you the cheek of that guy selling him a property. He's not a property guy. He's a banker. He's selling money. Why is he selling the property? And the guy got complacent and he jumped on it. And then when the music stopped, he was the one left having to pick up the pieces, like just people need to stick to what they know, that's, and only take advice from people if they know. I have a simple philosophy. I only take advice from people if they have what I want. Simple as that.
I was watching something, I think it was one of your videos, and it was like an inner circle and an outer circle when it comes to, making property deals. Is there certain knowledge, that is in that circle, and anything outside of that are kind of way too risky? Does that make sense?
So look, that's my kind of philosophy on life. There's an inner circle and an outer circle to everything. The inner circle is the guys who are picking up the opportunities before they become known to the wider market, if you want, and then the outer circle is the general public who pick up the scraps and fight amongst them. And for example, if my car breaks down, I'm not on the inner circle of the motor trade. I'm getting fleeced. I'm paying retail price on it, Whereas if you're in the motor trade and there's something wrong with your car, you'd get someone to look at it and it won't cost anything, So when I'm doing deals with people, like they know that if I tell them that they're going to get their money, they know they're going to get their money. So they say, well, look, we could put this on the market and we get 300 grand for it, possibly maybe 320, or you could ring this lad and see, does he want to do a deal at 275 or 280 or whatever, So that's kind of inner circle versus outer circle. That's just my analogy, and I just view it in absolutely everything. Some people have the inside track on things, and some people don't. And we're all getting fleeced somewhere along the lines, in my opinion, in one part. You go into. I always use the example then as well. You go in, you buy like a little 200ml bottle of like 7-Up in a pub, and it's like 270 or something, and you say, well, give us a pint of 7-Up, and it's more expensive than a pint of beer.
Yeah,
like, this is crazy, but that's just the way it is.
I always think that as well. Like, when you go into it and you get like a fizzy water, which is just air in water, and it's the same as a pint. You're like, this doesn't make sense. It's not the same process to get this to where it is. But I suppose they've got to captive audience. Where are you going to go? Like?
Where are you going to go? Yeah, exactly.
And you want someone to have skin in the game as well. Like a lender's not going to have skin in the game.
Well, they do. It's their money at the end of the day, isn't it? But if they don't want to lose money, you said the lender's going to have. Well, the lender is the lender the bank?
Well, yeah, no, the individual I was talking about. If you're trying to sell.
So look, there's all different types of scenarios. Look, this is the way. That's actually funny that you're talking about water there. Right? One of the things I decided when I finished up with my banking things was I was never drinking tap water again. I just never liked it. I never liked the taste of tap water, and I just know it's not good for you. And then when I finished up with my banking problems, and I had some free cash, that was like, right, I'm never buying or never drinking tap water ever again, But sorry, you're saying there about what did you mention there? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, getting caught in the water chat.
We were just talking about the banking stuff like that. Maybe we'll pick it up the story when the crash happens. They're calling in their money. Did you think that everything was over? Was that kind of a dark time? Did you know you'd bounce back? Did they bring you into because the guy they were talking about that got into trouble before with property said he used to go in the back door to see the manager in the bank, and then he was lining up in the queue for the teller.
Oh yeah. You go down the level of importance. Yeah, like I never really got carried away that much. You get to know the people that you're dealing with, and look, it is what it is. But the problem for me was that I owed the money. Well, it's all in one. I owed the money to all these different banks, so I had to go through the same process every single time. And each bank has a different set of rules, regulations, and criteria, and you just have to learn and deal with them. And it was a head wreck for me. But did I know? No, I never did. I know I was going to bounce back. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I never lost my determination to succeed throughout the entire process. I'm like, okay, get on with it. I'm just not going to allow this to stop me. It did tremendously slow me down, but I decided I wasn't going to let it stop me. We had a couple of it was a really interesting thing happened there. There was this TV thing going on, and I got involved in it, And, part of it was that I was going to get a solution to the problems, to my banking issues. That was it. And that didn't happen. And I just had to go back to the start and try and figure out what's happening. So basically, I had these experts help me, which I don't know if they helped me or not, but it kind of seemed to make things worse. And I was just left on my own then, and I couldn't afford to hire other professionals. And I remember going into the bank one day and saying, listen, I have no idea what these guys said or what they done. I was like, well, look, this is a shitstorm. What do I need to do? And the woman that I was dealing with in the bank was an absolute lady. Like, she was a gem. Like, and she's like, okay, tell me what you can do. And we went back and forth for a few months. And in the end, they got all their money back, and I got off the hook, but it took a long time then again. And I suppose, look, if you talk to other people about this, they'll tell you all the really bad things about it and all the sad things. And yeah, listen, I can go down that road, but I just don't really talk about that sort of stuff, to be honest. Like, I was terrified of the postman. Yeah, I was suicidal at one stage over the whole lot of it. Like, but the fucking more letters from the bank, and you're looking at them, and it freaks you out, And then, like, I'm just happy that that's my apprenticeship. I'm not fucking going back there. I'm never going to let that happen to me again. If I do find myself in that situation, I know how to deal with it. I know what it's like when I'm at rock bottom. I know that when I get to rock bottom, I was still determined to succeed. So, that's the bonus that I take from it,
Perfect. And so say you're past that time now, and you're back on your feet. Or wait, how do we do this? Say you're talking to the 18-year-old Joe or someone that's like Joe. What's the first steps for them to get going if they want to get to 100 million? Is there, if you knew now, or if you knew then what you knew now, do you think you could get there quicker, or is it just a process?
Great question. I can't tell anybody what it's like to get to 100 million because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So, like, I can tell people what it's like to get to 10 million, yeah, no problem. Like, but the thing is, like, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making when it comes to creating wealth is they aim to become a millionaire, right? And a millionaire is a net worth of 1 million, right? So they aim, but if you really want to create wealth, you must aim to make 1 million euros every year. That's the target. You must aim to make 1 million euros every year. And if you force yourself into that situation, it just opens up a new section of your mind, and you're like, yeah, I can either do it or I'm not doing it. But it's a different ball game altogether. Never, I don't know exactly what the profile of your listeners are here, but I'm sure they're into making money and all that sort of stuff. So don't aim to be a millionaire. Aim to make 1 million every year. That's what you have to do. And you're kind of nodding your head a little bit and saying, wow, that's a big look. Once you aim for that, your whole life will take on a different meaning,
I love that as well. That's because when we're taught in school, I think we mention this almost every episode, but when you're in school in third year or something, they give you this like sheet of what all the different salaries are for different jobs, and you're like, okay, if you want to be an accountant, you get this. If you want to be an engineer,
right, yeah.
you get that. Like, and it's kind of like picking from a menu, but it's nowhere near 1 million a year or anything like it. No one says, or you can pick the kind of mystery box here. You have to figure it out. But
make sure you don't get the booby prize, isn't it?
So it's up to you. Like, but like you said before, if you're not aiming for 1 million, you definitely won't get there. So you failed by default as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's like if the whole, like, if I promise you, like, as there's guys listening here saying, oh, that's easy for him to say. Look, I'm a bricklayer from Clondalkin, right? Like, that's where I started out, right? I just caught on to this a few years ago, yeah. And our portfolio is like 12 million or something now. Most of that came in the last 3 years. Do you know what I'm saying? So my rate of acceleration is going through the roof now. So whilst I'm not happy that it's took me 18 years to get to this point, I know that like 70% of the gains, or 50% of the gains came in the last 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, and we're getting faster. But like, the number one thing you must do is have a target. Pick the target, have a goal, and make whatever you think the goal is, make it 10 times that. Obviously, Cardone 10x, but aim to make it. If you aim to make £1 million a year, you're going to look at the world in a completely different place. I promise you. Like I know I've said it already. I'll fucking say it 2 more times before we finish here. If your guys want to take something from that, that's what they need to take.
What do you think, Mark? Are you thinking big enough out there, and with your business, what's going on?
Maybe not $1 million a year, but I'm certainly thinking big.
Yeah.
Certainly building something as opposed to just kind of transactions. But out of interest, Joe, you've chosen the property as a vehicle to get that wealth creation. Were you just really into property, or did you just kind of fixate on that and you knew that was a way, or did you ever think of any other ways of wealth creation, or is it property empire that you want?
No, I want a big fuck off empire. I want to own streets. You know,
like Monopoly back in the day. It's like that's look, that's a
100%.
hard. We were all just fucking around.
Like I just to go back on what Mark said there, I always say use your business as a vehicle for wealth creation. So the success that you get in your property ventures will be dependent on how well you can fuel them from either flipping properties, or you're going to need to bring cash in elsewhere. So once you can bring cash in from elsewhere in the business, once you can bring cash in to the property business, because you're going to need to bring something to the table yourself, that will help you accelerate. Because if you can borrow 60%, 70%, 80%, whatever the amount of money that you can borrow is, it's the other piece that's just going to slow you down. So if you're borrowing 90% and you want to do $1 million deal, you need 100 grand. If you're borrowing 80%, you need, it's 200 grand. So that's the piece that's slowing you down. So I've got a system where I've got my business and I've got that married to my investments. Although they're not, maybe married is the wrong word, but I've got them intertwined so that we take money in here and we push it straight over in there. So the minute we take it in here, it multiplies straight away. And then the value of it multiplies, and we take the rental income from that then. So for example, like, in my trading business, any money we earn in that trading business, we use it for deposits to buy property. So we have that money forever because it's just in the property, and chances are it's going to increase in value. And if we want to get that money out at any point down the line, we can just liquidate the asset and sell it. However, whilst we own the asset, it should be going up in value, as I said, but it's bringing off rent as well. So it's not going anywhere. So you can effectively keep every cent that you've ever earned in your business by using this system,
And are you focused solely on West Dublin at the moment? Is that right? Or is it any particular reason that you're focused there? Or?
Yeah, the opportunity is here. I live in Clondalkin. I seen somebody was saying something there to me the other day, and then someone asked me kind of a similar question on TikTok. I'm like, people are traveling all over the world, and like I'm making millions and I've barely moved outside Clondalkin. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just crazy, So is that because all the opportunities in Clondalkin, or is that because I became accustomed to spot opportunities that I'm used to dealing with? And look, when I say I'm making millions, we've made a few million, but I'm not at the 100 million point yet, anywhere near it, But I just think it's, once you get zoned in on something, it works. And like if I was down in Cork, I'd be doing deals in Cork. Like any of my tenants ring me now and say there's something wrong. Well, they don't ring me, but they ring one of the guys. But I can be in pretty much all of my properties in less than 30 minutes. So they're all, not all of them, but I can be in any one of my properties in less than 30 minutes. There was a flood in one of them there 2 weeks ago. I was just going to bed and I was like, oh, geez, this is great. Like, it was an easy evening. Like, I wasn't working. Like, everything is just strangely calm. And then, there's water coming down from the ceiling. And I'm like, oh, geez. So I'm getting up and I'm just getting dressed to go down, hoping that I don't have to go down, but knowing that I will. And in the end, I didn't go down. But like, it wasn't as if the property was in Cork and I was in Dublin. It was a 15-minute spin down the line. What's that? Bangkok, yeah.
And did you ever invest or think of investing in, Cyprus or Bulgaria? Or?
I've thought of loads of stuff, yeah, but I've never actually done it. Like, it's just, it needs to be within 30 minutes of my doorstep, Can I just tell you something here, right? Just, you guys, you obviously are Grant Cardone fans, yeah?
Big fans.
So, yeah, just
Uncle G, as we call him on the show.
Uncle G, yeah. So just to flick back there, right? I'm gonna tell you like maybe a 10-minute story here, but you like this, right? And this is for your listeners who are thinking that chap's off the rails with his bleeding £1 million a year, right? I kind of started figuring out this whole kind of massive action thing in 2016-ish, thereabouts, maybe 2015, 2016. And I started learning different things. I just started noticing different things. Didn't say learn, I started noticing them, and I was like, I wonder what this work, and I wonder what that work. And at that time, we all wanted to be a millionaire when you retire, which is like, a fictional date in the future, to have a fictional amount of money. And I never really had a specific target as such, other than I just wanted more, and I wanted a bigger company and all that. And I can remember Grant Cardone was having his event in Miami, the 10x Growth Con. It was the first one ever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to that. And I'm just having this little kind of daydream. He said, yeah, I'm going to go to that. And my banking issues had just been sorted then at that stage. And I'm like, no, if I'm going there, I'm going to fly first class, and I'm going to sit in the front row, and I'm going to actually get a Rolls Royce like Grant's to bring me to the airport. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just having this little dream, to myself. And then I'm like, now hold on a minute. And so then I'm bring myself back down to earth. Now, Joe, cop on. You got a few quid in the bank. Your bank stuff is behind you. Don't start thinking you're Bertie Big Balls going around in a Rolls Royce type of thing if you're going to do that. And then I said, actually, you know what? I am going to do it. And I'm going to earn the money from somewhere else. So I just had this little dream, this little daydream, like, right, I was like, I don't know, say we needed 30 grand. It was 10 grand for the ticket, first class flight to America, 3 or 4 grand, hotel, all the usual bits and bobs. So I was like, right, how am I going to do it? And I was like, well, look, I've just bounced through this big shitstorm. Surely there's value in what has happened to me that I can show to other people. So I basically took out my phone and I made a video. And I said, look, I've got a new idea coming up. I'm going to be able to help somebody. And I was going to get a couple of people, put them together and charge them a few grand to show them how to do what I've done, And it just happened. Boom. I made the money to go to Miami. I was like, Jesus, this was easy, right? So I'm sitting in the front row in Miami. All my money that I had was still there. Not that I had that much at the time, but whatever you had. As in surplus cash. I didn't have to spend any of my cash to get there, right? So there was actually, I heard this term there the other day. I'll tell you now, it's actually a good term. Yeah, proximity is everything, right? So to get close to the people that's making the money. So if someone writes a book, you read the book, but you're not in close proximity to them. But if you can stand next to them, it's a different story. So went to the Growth Con. He had a party in his house and all. I got to go there. I'm taking pictures in his jacks and all sorts of messing, right? And it was good crack. And I went on my own, and I would never go anywhere on my own, but I just thought, I'm going on my own here. So while I was there was this little page folded, and it was like 5-day mastermind retreat, 25 grand. And my mouth just, I'll do that. I was like, I'm not saying that, right? So he just came over and he had the page, the folder, and he just kind of pushed it into my chest. Didn't put it into my hand, put it into my chest, as in I had to grab it. Like I felt it, right? So I'm sitting there saying, hold on, Joe, you're at to get into Miami by just dreaming up stuff. Surely you can get to St. Bart's in the Bahamas by dreaming up stuff again, right? So I'm like, right, okay. So I'm thinking, how can I do it? And I just had this question. I was like, how much would somebody pay me to show them how to acquire €500,000 worth of property, right? Which is basically 2 houses, but So while I was at the conference, I walked out the back and I made a video saying, I'm going to do this. How much would you pay? And people were saying like 5 grand, 10%, 2 grand, all these mad amounts, right? So in the end, I settled on 1,500 quid. And I said, look, I'll take 20 people, 1,500 quid, or whatever the amount of people it was. And so I'm sitting at the conference, and my phone was like literally just blown up, like by people saying like, yeah, I want in on this, I want in. So I rings Linda. I was like, Linda, there's people going to come to the house and they're going to give you money. Just take it, make sure it's in an envelope, make sure their name is on it, and go to the bank at the end of every day, because they might be coming up for a few days, right? And she's like, why you had to do? I was like, listen, I'm at the conference, I'll talk to you when I get back. And then I rang the girl that worked in my office and I said the same thing. And she's like, she's my accountant, my bookkeeper. She's like, oh, you can't be taking money unless you have an invoice and this. I said, listen, just take the fucking money. We'll sort it all out when I get back. And in the end, we got 20 or so people to pay for that, right? So now I'm going to St. Bart's to hang out with Grant Cardone and all the big hitters for 5 days. I'm like, this is fucking savage. Like this, so this is now twice I'm after dreaming this thing up, you know. So the next, and this is where it gets even more exciting then. So I got to talk to Cardone, and he was talking about, you know, talking on stage and all. He said, you know, you could do this and all. I was pure fired up, and I'm like, when I get to go to St. Bart's, I have to tell him that I've done at least one live speaking event, so that he can put me on his stage. This is me dreaming again, right? So we put on a speaking event for charity, and we got, like, you know, 250 people or something paid to come and see this, and we done it in Liffey Valley in the Clayton Hotel, Clarion it was at the time. So I'm in my kitchen preparing my speech to go on stage, and, you know, whatever date it was. But about 4 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, I was going to the St. Bart's thing. So I dreamt up being on stage purely to get me the experience, so that when I sat next to him I could say it. So you can see I've dreamt up going from Clondalkin to Miami, and I've dreamt up going from Clondalkin to St. Bart's, and it's funded itself so far. And then I just, you know, imagined the room full of people, and the people came, right? So I'm doing my speech for the night, and while I'm doing it up, I just had this horrible feeling in me. I was like, I can't get on stage and talk to people about creating wealth and all that sort of stuff while I still owe the bank some money, and I owed them 120 grand. I'm like, I can't do it. And I had 120 grand in my bank, but I couldn't go to St. Bart's to hang out with these big hitters with no money in my bank. I would have been a fake. You know, I don't mind going up saying, listen, lads, I'm the poorest lad in the room, and I'm here to learn from all you guys. Like, I'm happy to be the student, but I couldn't go with nothing. You know, what happens if they ask you to buy a round of drinks and it's 2 G's and you don't have the money, you know? So all these different things are going on, right? So I'm in my kitchen, and I'm like thinking, where can I get 120 grand in a week, you know? And Linda, I'm talking, and she's asked me questions, and I'm like, Linda, leave me alone. I think I have it figured out. And she's like, what? I said, just leave me. So I just figured out, I'd done a deal with a guy, and I'd bought a property, and the property was worth, it was basically, I wasn't selling the property to the guy too cheap. I was selling to him at the price. I said, look, do you want to buy a property? Here's the deal. And I sold him all the bells and whistles. I said, look, it's an absolute paper exercise. You don't need to do that. You take over the property. He's like, yeah, grand. And I made 130 grand on that deal, right? But I wasn't going to get paid for 8, 10, 12 weeks. And then I jumped on the phone to one of my other buddies then and said, hey, listen, man, do you want to make 10 grand? He's like, what? I said, I'm about to make 130 on a property. Give me 120, and when the money comes in, you can have the 130. And he's like, so you're just going to give me 10 grand for nothing? I'm like, yeah. He's like, fucking sure, I'll be there. When do you want to do it, right? So next minute, I gets the check. So I had the check, 120 grand. Went into the bank, gave them their money that they owed. So that was me, cleared, free, zero banking issues then. And I could stand on the stage and talk about what I'd done even the couple of weeks previous, you know. So that all went through. And then between doing the event and actually due to go to St. Bart's, the big hurricane hit and wrecked the hotel and wrecked the whole island, you know. So the event got cancelled, and Cardone's office refunded me the 25 grand. So I was basically, I had won all round. In my preparation to do all this, I became a different guy altogether, you know. On 2 or 3 or 4 times there, I basically just visualized making an amount of money in a short space of time, and I made it happen. So my own level of belief just went through the roof, you know. And then I became even more determined, and then I realized that I was actually thinking too small all the time. And just before Christmas or after Christmas, I said to my guy Paddy, he's my number one guy on the property side of things. I was like, Paddy, right, here's the plan for the year. £1 million profit this year. That's the plan, right? And he's like, yeah, well, look, you do 500 Gs and I'll do 500 Gs. So basically, I've got my trading side, which is my business mentoring side, you know. And it's like the results we get for people is like unbelievable there, right? So we teach tradesmen how to do what I do with my building company and how to get them going with property. I was like, no, you do 1 million and I'll do 1 million. There's none of this halves here, right? And he just didn't say anything, you know. And he came into this house here like 3 days ago, and he's like, I'm already 550 up, he says, and it's only January. I need a bigger target. I was like, see, I told you, you know. Now we've got a couple of deals going on. We had a couple of deals from last year hanging over that he was going to get them on his tally this year because they only count them when you get paid. And then we found more stuff. So it's just like when you put this level of determination out there and you put it to the universe, it happens. It just happens when you focus exclusively on one thing. Don't allow yourself to be put off. And I'm not really the biggest fan of the law of attraction, which I know does work. Like I'm about the law of fucking hustle, the law of action, you know. But I can tell you like a couple more stories. I don't know if you actually noticed on my Facebook page there, the very first day back. So my plan was there. I said, I wonder how much money I can make between, and I know people say, oh, I wonder how much business I could do. I just focus on money. I wonder how much money I could make between the closing of the businesses at Christmas and when they open back up on the 5th or the 6th or whatever it is, you know. And I was just set myself a little target. You know those little hangover days when nothing really happens in the world, 28, 29, 30th. I just focused there and I was just working, and because I'm working from home and I can do it on my own time, my missus wasn't too bothered by it. But I know that when you do something that's exclusively harder than what you should do, when you voluntarily put yourself in a position where you need to do something that's difficult, good luck happens. So the first day back of the new year, I'm sitting right where I'm sitting now, and I had been literally going around my head like the night before saying, right, I want to make 50 grand this month. I want to make 50 grand. That's what I'm just telling myself, right? And I got a phone call, I got a text message off a guy to say, I basically bought a house for like 40 grand, like actually during the summer. And he was living there as a long-term tenant and all that sort of stuff. And the deal, I tried to buy it a couple of years ago, and it took a good few years to get the deal sorted. And I was like, yeah, look, whenever you get your mortgage, just give me a shout. But he's like, I've bad credit. It won't be for 3 years. Look, whatever. Make that place your home. Whenever you want to do it, just give me a shout. He basically texted me to say, I've got 100 grand of a mortgage, you know. And I was like, holy shit, the very first working day of the new year, something that I wasn't expecting to materialize. I got the jitters. I was pure nervous because I was thinking about it the night before. And I wrote it on my Facebook page saying the first day back, you know, and I'm after getting like, holy shit, that was just mad. It's like, wouldn't you just put something out there and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get to that point? It will deliver. And now I'm at the point where I know I'm seriously under delivering because I should have been thinking like this years ago.
It's been like since, I don't know what it is. I don't know if we've kind of brought with our own law of attraction stuff, if we have brought these people into the podcast, but you're the third person in a row, I think, that has talked about this at some stage where they just decided on doing something big and then things started just happening, or someone, like I said earlier, kind of, you put something out there, someone puts up their hands, and that sounds like something I'd like to get involved in. I've got all this knowledge about this. I've got all these connections or whatever. Let's go do this. Like we had a lad on the podcast who had a chain of bakeries in town. And then he wanted to start a software business. And then randomly he just met someone who had the skills to build what he was thinking. And now
Brilliant.
He was doing Ferrari shopping there on Instagram recently. He's like, you know, what I'm saying is like, it's a lot of people we've talked to have kind of figured this out. I don't want to go down, and Marco stops me from going down the kind of the secret way. I'm not going that far, but I'm saying like I agree.
There's something out there. Like it just works, you know. You just like, you have to work hard. Now listen, I'm not at the point where I could be Ferrari shopping myself. So, you know, fair play to your man, whoever he is, you know. Yeah. But like, you know, it works. There's opportunities out there, and it just, like, I could just tell you different things. Like, actually, before Paddy came in and said he needed a bigger target, right? We borrowed this money off these investors, the Bank of Joe, we call it, and we spend the money and then we put mortgage on the property to get the money back. And then we spend the money again and put mortgage on to get it back. So we're using the same money in and out all the time. But the problem is when we take the money back in, if we don't have a deal for it, we're paying interest on it, or we have to give it back to the investors. And it took us years to build it up. So basically we had a situation where we'd no deals, and we had this money coming back from mortgages, and he couldn't sleep, he said, because he knew that he had to find a deal to put this money into. And we just found a deal. It just landed on our doorstep. We sale agreed on Friday. This is just Friday just gone. It's just, I don't know. I think it's like, be unapologetic with your determination to yourself. You know, don't be saying, oh yeah, we know, we're sitting on, I'm gonna fucking do it. Because I just think when you say you're gonna fucking do it, the universe hears, this guy's gonna fucking do it. We better give it to him and save ourselves the hassle, you know. I just, all the kind of wishy-washy stuff, I'll have a go at it now. I just, I don't think that serves you as well as, you know, complete determination.
And complete determination, it's not as common as you'd imagine, because like when you're saying that, a lot of people kind of dabble in things, or like I'm in sales, a lot of people say, you know, if I hit the target, it's okay. You know, I'm all right with, you know, the base is pretty good anyway, kind of ties me over and all that type of stuff. So that's what I was saying to Mark this year. We're going, I've asked for a different type of contract where there's a lot more upside.
Pretty good,
but, you know, maybe some risk on the downside, Mark, like we talked about before. But you know, we're trying to risk up things in a positive way so that we can reach to a place that we've not been before. And you kind of have to burn the boats a little bit, like Mark did with his business as well.
And Joe, really, really interested in the kind of personal brand of Joe Doyle. Like, how did that come about? How did that start? Was it just organic, or did you model it on something? Did you get inspiration somewhere?
What is the brand? Actually, here's an interesting question. Tell me, what is the brand in the oil? What is the brand of Joe Doyle in the eyes of Mark Baker?
I think it's definitely honest. I think it's experience. It's no nonsense. I love all the Instagram posts and all that, but
Unapologetic with those.
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
I think it's the honesty is the key thing. You know, I think it's trustworthy. There's no bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit on social media, unfortunately. You're kind of trying to sift through it. You're trying to get inspired. I think a lot of people are inspired by these posts, but I think yours are just a bit more honest. And maybe it's because we're all from Dublin and it resonates a little bit more. But it obviously works. People are obviously coming to you for different things, whether it's property or to help them with their business. Actually, interesting. Like, what are the kind of key kind of pain points that like a typical construction business or business owner would face, and how would you help them?
Most times they are succeeding. They're aiming too low and succeeding because they're afraid to aim high and fail.
Okay.
So they're aiming for it. Like, you know, I like push everybody 500 a day, 500 a day, 500 a day. That's what you have to be going for. You have to make €500 profit every single day before you go home. If you're going on the way home, you haven't got 500 profit, turn the fuck back around and get out and get it, you know. And then I've given them all these tools and strategies to make that happen. Most of my clients make €500 most of the days. Not all of them make it every day. Most of them make it most days. And one lad, like, we made 500 quid every day. He was short of like 90 quid to make it 5 days in a row. And just because he didn't do his homework and check how much he made every day, he didn't realize, you know. So we've all these different kind of strategies and tactics to use, you know. Yeah, like, we have got like a fucking serious, like, if there's such thing as magic, it's in what we've created with that business mentorship program, because like, I didn't have it when I started off. I took a little bit about how I ran my business, and I took how I ran my business, and I put these different inputs in, influences from different lads. And like, we have got, like, it's unbelievable. Like, you just turn up with your boots on and your Snickers gear and just do what you're told, and you'll make the money. It's crazy. It's just like certain tweaks and different things to the business and all that. And like, rather than aiming for like to make 100 grand or 200 grand in a year, you may aim to make 500 quid per day. So you know at 4 o'clock in the day if you're on point for your yearly target or not. And if you're not, then we have, you know, things you do to make that happen. And once then they start making a few quid, we just flip them over and do some property deals. Either they do them themselves or they do them with me or whatever you want to be. Like I've basically built a community of people who are just like me. They're all fucking nuts, like, you know. They're just like so determined, pushing and pushing and pushing all the time, which is great. Like, and it's really like, it feels like magic, to be honest, you know. When you get a guy that has no money, like, and like then he's equating, you know, after say 2 or 3 months or 2 months even, he's equating the amount of money he has in the bank account to what percentage of a deposit he has for a property. Whereas before I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy a new car, a new van. Now I'm like, I'm 3/4 of the way or 3/8 of the way there to my property purchase, you know. It's crazy stuff. It's interesting just to hear you talking about the brand there of Joe Doyle, you know, because this is just me. You know, I don't, you know, you're always trying to just be yourself, you know, and I'd be like saying F-bombs on videos and people would be giving out to me like, oh fuck, you know, and then other people like, oh no, like I like the way that if you think something shit, you just say it and stuff like that. So, you know, social media is a handy number for me because it's just me.
But still, it takes a lot of effort to actually put the stuff up and put it together. Do you have a support structure that does that for you, or do you just kind of do it every day? Or
oh no, we have a team. Like, so I heard a PA there on Friday, but I have 2 guys on the media side, and even at that, then like people be like, how do you do so much? So basically, I've got 1 key man on the property side, I've got 1 key man on the media side, and then I've got a part-time guy on the media side, and now I heard a PA. And you want to see the amount of stuff that we get done because I'm so meticulous. Don't waste money, don't waste time. You know, that's what you're pushing for. But again, like we are seriously underperforming on what we're doing, like on the social media side. Like I've got about like 300 clients all over the country now, but like there's no reason why I shouldn't have 3,000 clients. There's no reason why there shouldn't be 3,000 people in this country, tradesmen out there, you know, making 500 quid a day for them and their family, rather than just scraping by working for years and not getting anywhere really, you know. It's crazy. Like people, you know, typical client will come to me and have 40 or 50 grand saved to be in business 10 years. And then we'll set a plan to get another 100 within that year. So the net result for all this year's work would be like 50 grand. And then we'll set a plan to get another 100. Now, will he get it? Sometimes he will, sometimes he won't, but he'll get close to it. And it's just crazy that, like, it's magic. I just think, holy shit, like, how are these guys not delivering for so long? And then I know how they're delivering because I just listen to what I tell them, but how are they not delivering for so long and accepting it?
Belief. I suppose they don't believe it.
You know, they can't see beyond what's been the normal. If they hang around, they might know 2 or 3 other tradesmen that are in business, so they might be doing worse than they are, and they go, well, I've got 40 grand in the bank.
Yeah. Yes, it's crazy stuff, you know. But it's an interesting. I'll tell you actually a quick story there. Last Christmas, not Christmas gone, the one before, I had this thing in my head that I wanted to run 100 kilometers in a day, and my buddy was putting on a charity event, so he says, right, we'll train to run 100 kilometers in a day, and I'm like, if I can actually run, this is before the race, like, if I can run 100 kilometers in a day, that means I can officially do anything that I want to ever do, because that's like 2.5 marathons in a day. So we done the race, and like it nearly killed me, but I got finished in the end. And we ran 100 kilometers in a day, and it was great crack, but it was a weird feeling. Like, so then we done it again just before Christmas this year, right? But about a week before I done the 100K for the second time, I connected with some guy on Instagram, not some guy, his name is Ruslan, and he's literally running 40,000 kilometers all around the world, right? So I was like, 100K, I was like, sure, I've done it before, I'll do it again. And then you meet someone who's running 40,000 kilometers, and then you realize that what my target of 100K in a day was is absolutely nothing in comparison to what he's doing. So you should be always reaching up, if that makes sense. If you're not reaching up, you're definitely going backwards in my eyes, you know.
It's unbelievable as well. Is it that really when you're saying that once you did it once, you had no doubt in your mind that you could do it again? Do you look away like it's
100%?
That's kind of like, it's like in a video game. It's like you've leveled up now. You got it to a checkpoint, and it's hard to get back down to the
yeah. But you know what the crazy thing was, and this is something that I'm kind of exploring with myself now, is that I have a lot of kind of limiting beliefs, I believe, going on in my own head, because I promised myself that I could do anything I wanted once I done the 100K. And then once I done it, like, and I done it the second time, I was like, well, it's not that hard. I was like, yeah, you know, and I really need to start thinking bigger in my business, because like pretty much anybody who interacts with me on social media is a bit better off as a result of it. If they, you know, if we do some business, they would make more money or they would acquire some skills. If they just interact or engage with me, I'll answer some of their questions for them. So there's a lot of value that I have to give to a lot of people who aren't getting it right now. And if I can just get out of my own way and lift that up, like, there's a lot of people that will be far better off as a direct result of the work we do, you know.
It's a great belief to have as well, like that you can make the impact on people. And after this this call here, we're going to put all the stuff, all the links to Joe's stuff on after this. So all the people who maybe haven't come across you that are our listeners will be able to kind of tap into that positive energy as well, you know.
Yeah. And what I've got is like, if I'm allowed to say it, you can edit this out if you want, I don't mind. But if any of our listeners want like a business program, free one, tell them just to message me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, SharkPod, and I'll know that you're listeners, and I'll send them a program for free then, so they can get into it and see what it's all about, you know.
Class. So we usually do a lightning round, but we ran out of time here, Mark. So Mark, what's the 2 questions that are burning there for Joe, and then we'll let him go back to his evening here. What do you think?
I'd enjoy the chat, lad. So I'm happy you had me on here.
Okay, maybe. Is it who you know or what you know?
It's definitely not what you know. It's definitely not who you know. It's how determined you are. It's how much you want it.
Good answer. And then, okay, the last one is, if you could advise somebody to learn one skill, what would it be?
It'd have to be to sell, wouldn't it? To sell yourself. Learn how to sell yourself.
It's something that, like, you know, like we mentioned before the podcast, I had a baby recently. Like, teaching them.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
What's his name?
Seamus.
Savage. Brilliant.
Yeah, so he's got his birth cert in the mail today. So Seamus, yeah. So Seamus is going to be selling shit as soon as he is able to, you know, chat to his little classmates. If we sell them, I'll make sure of that. But so Joe, thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed chatting to you. Love the stories about the visualization and then making shit happen. I think it's like we've talked to loads of people on the SharkPod, but this is from a completely kind of different angle, I think, and I think people will love it. We'll put some of your links in the show notes, and also tell everybody to go out there if you want to have a go at some of the business coach or the business programs that you have. We'll put a thing in for SharkPod, and we'll see if we can get some people making 500 a day. I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, no worries, lads. Well, you know where I'm at if you need me. Yeah.
Right. Thanks a million, Joe.
See you at the top.
Bye.